Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Counting on Jill Duggar mourning heartbreaking day. Counting on alum Jill Duggar Dillard is back with new updates amid her healing journey. The 33-year-old mom suffered a miscarriage last April. She took a quick break from social media before returning full of positivity. However, it seems Jill can't help but get emotional as she celebrates a sad milestone. Keep reading to see what it was. Counting on Jill Duggar and Derek Dillard announced miscarriage. In a joint Instagram post on April, Jill and Derek announced the miscarriage of their daughter, Isla Marie. According to Jill, she was only 4 months pregnant when she suffered the devastating loss. The Counting on alum kept in touch with the fans, sharing stories about the time she learned about her pregnancy up until the heartbreaking day they found out that the baby died in her utero. The majority of the Duggar family attended Isla Marie's funeral, including Jim, Bob, and Michelle. They set their strained relationships aside from the sad day. Jill shares sad milestone. In an Instagram post, Jill shared photos of herself as she enters the 6th month since she lost her daughter, Isla Marie. The Counting on alum couldn't believe how fast time flies. As a tribute to her stillborn daughter, Jill Duggar Dillard decided to bring her family outdoors for a picnic and a jog at the creek. "I'm wearing a little extra pink today for you," she added. Jill turned off the comments section of her post out of respect for Isla Marie. But many people have left positive comments on her previous posts, wishing her healing. Counting on, what is Jill Duggar up to today? Jill Duggar Dillard has lived her daily life with her family. The Counting on alum no longer shares the faces of her kids online, but she often shares clips from their swimming lessons and other outdoor activities while facing backward. There are also speculations that Jill may be writing another book. This comes after she uploaded an IG Stories photo of herself working on a laptop. She didn't exactly share what it was, but several people think she may be writing a new memoir, especially with her sister Duggar releasing another book early next year. Jill Duggar Dillard sat quietly at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee. The house was still. Derek had taken the kids to the park for the morning, giving her some much-needed alone time. But today wasn't like other days. Today wasn't about catching up on chores, running errands, or even taking a moment to rest. Today was a day Jill had circled on her calendar with a heavy heart, a day that she dreaded but couldn't ignore. Today marked the anniversary of a heartbreaking loss, one that had forever altered her sense of motherhood, family, and faith. The sunlight streamed through the windows, casting long shadows across the room, as memories washed over her, each one more vivid and painful than the last. It was hard to believe that so much time had passed since that devastating moment when she and Derek had learned the unbearable news. It was a cold, rainy morning when they sat in the doctor's office, waiting for what was supposed to be a routine checkup. Jill had felt uneasy that day, though she couldn't explain why. Her intuition as a mother had been sharp, and there was something about this pregnancy that had felt different from the start. But she had dismissed her fears, reminding herself that worry was a constant companion in motherhood, and she was likely overthinking. The ultrasound technician had been unusually quiet that day, her movements slower, more deliberate. Jill had caught the sideways glances, the way the technician had furrowed her brow as she moved the probe across her belly. Then, in a moment that Jill would replay over and over again in her mind, the technician gently said, "I'm going to get the doctor." In that split second, Jill's world had stopped. Her heart pounded in her chest, her breath caught in her throat, and the silence in the room became deafening. She clung to Derek's hand, her knuckles turning white, as they waited for what felt like an eternity. When the doctor finally entered the room, her face wore the expression Jill had dreaded. "I'm so sorry," the doctor had said softly, her voice full of empathy and sorrow. "There's no heartbeat." Jill shook her head, trying to dispel the memory. Even now, the words felt like daggers. No heartbeat. How could something so precious, something so full of life and promise, just stop? The days and weeks following that appointment had been a blur of grief, confusion, and numbness. The loss of her baby had left a gaping hole in her heart, one that she feared would never heal. And yet, as a public figure, As someone whose life had been shared so openly with the world, she had felt the pressure to move forward, to carry on with grace and strength. The Duggars had always been a family of faith. Jill had grown up surrounded by the belief that God had a plan for everything, that His will was sovereign, and that there was a purpose in every trial. But in those early days of grief, Jill struggled to make sense of it all. How could this be part of any plan? How could the loss of a child, a life that she had already loved so deeply, be something that she was supposed to accept? She had wrestled with her faith, questioned everything she had been taught, and wondered if she would ever find peace again. There were days when the weight of her sadness felt unbearable, when she couldn't bring herself to get out of bed or face the world. And yet, through it all, Derek had been her rock, steady, patient, and unwavering in his support. Together, they had navigated the storm, clinging to each other when the waves of grief threatened to pull them under. Today, as Jill sat alone at the kitchen table, she allowed herself to feel the weight of her loss once more. It wasn't something she could carry with her every day. Life with two young boys required her full attention, and the demands of motherhood left little room for reflection. But on this day, the anniversary of her loss, she gave herself permission to mourn. She had learned over the years that grief was not something that ever fully went away. It was a companion, one that ebbed and flowed, sometimes retreating into the background and other times surging forward with unexpected force. But she had also learned that it was okay to grieve, that her sorrow didn't diminish the joy she felt for the children she had, nor did it mean that her faith was weak. In the quiet of the morning, Jill pulled out a small worn journal from the drawer. She had started it in the days following her loss, filling its pages with letters to her baby, words that she could never say aloud. The journal had become a sacred space for her, a place where she could pour out her heart without fear of judgment or expectation. Flipping through the pages, Jill's eyes filled with tears as she read the words she had written all those years ago. The pain was still fresh, but there was also a sense of healing woven into the pages, a reminder that while she had lost something precious, she had also gained strength, resilience, and a deeper understanding of her own heart. Jill took a deep breath, wiping away the tears that had fallen onto the journal's pages. She knew that today would be hard, but she also knew that she was not alone. Derek would be home soon with the boys, and together, they would honor the memory of the child they had lost. It was a tradition they had started after that first year, lighting a candle in remembrance, saying a prayer, and allowing themselves to feel the sadness without being consumed by it. As the morning sun climbed higher in the sky, Jill stood up, feeling the weight of her grief, but also the warmth of the love that surrounded her. She glanced at the family photo on the wall, a reminder of the joy and blessings in her life, and smiled softly. Grief and joy, she had learned, could coexist. The loss of her baby was a part of her story, but it was not the whole story. There was still so much to be thankful for, so much to live for, and so much love to give. And on this heartbreaking day, Jill Duggar Dillard allowed herself to feel it all, the sorrow, the joy, the love, and the hope for healing.